Resurrection of Jesus. No resurrection required. What evidence do we have that it actually happened, and is that evidence in fact reliable? There was a request for a video response or an answer on Twitter if we felt that anything hadn't been addressed or any evidence for the supposed resurrection account hadn't been fully addressed in the video, so I took it upon myself to provide that in light of your request. So, not going to contest any of the contents of the actual video itself or claim that the evidence for the veracity of the texts we have, as mentioned in the discussion of the video, were, as a matter of fact, legitimate or illegitimate. Not going to come against any of your criticisms themselves. However, one thing which I think is relevant, which was not mentioned in the video discussion at all, is the deaths of the apostles, them supposedly being first-hand accounts of Jesus' life and resurrection, and then their own eventual martyrdom for the faith, which a lot of people say would indicate the reality that they did see and did believe what they had seen. Traditional church history says that every apostle died for the faith, but critical scholarship has put some of them in doubt. Based on what really limited research I can see here, it looks like Peter, Paul, and James, the brother of Jesus, based on what evidence we have very strong indication that they were, in fact, martyred for the faith. They were killed, and external historical research does seem to verify that. So those accounts that they were murdered for their faith do seem, for the most part, to be reliable and positions we can take with a strong backing of evidence. Additionally, St. Thomas and St. Andrew also appear to have enough evidence that it's more probable that they were, in fact, martyred for the faith than it is that these stories are just apocryphal. So most of the evidence I've found suggests that Thomas and Andrew were probably killed for the faith, although this is not totally solid, and Paul, Peter, and James, the brother of Jesus, were most likely, in fact, martyred for the faith. This is something which appears to be a strong position we can take, a solid line of evidence supporting this idea. Now, Paul was not a witness to the life of Jesus. He never encountered Jesus while he was alive before he was crucified. He just had a vision. So I think we can sort of discount his martyrdom as evidence for the resurrection here, because while it does seem to indicate that he was honest and sincere in his beliefs, if they came from a vision, we should be a little bit more skeptical about those claims he might be making just on a vision or a dream he might have had. It was a vision, not a dream. But James, the brother of Jesus, and Peter. Now, these are two accounts of people who claim to have known Jesus personally, or who the historical accounts claim knew him personally, and who do claim to have seen Jesus resurrected. Their evidence for his resurrection is their own first-hand witness of him being risen from the dead, of him appearing to them, and eventually their death for the faith, their persecution, their martyrdom. Two apostles having died for the faith does seem like very strong evidence that they were sincere in their beliefs and that their their accounts could be taken to be legitimate, could at least be taken to have a very strong basis, a strong basis of credibility, which merits their accounts to be taken seriously. Now, they do both claim to have seen the risen Jesus, and while some of the details of the resurrection, some of the gospel accounts might be brought under scrutiny, might be worth reconsidering, maybe not be as reliable as some people have made them out to be. Nevertheless, the fact that two people who supposedly saw Jesus and were followers of him did in fact die for their faith, die on account of having seen the risen Jesus. This, to me, seems like incredibly strong and compelling testimony that they were sincere in their beliefs, and that the accounts of a risen Jesus are, in fact, legitimate accounts, credible accounts, which should at least be taken seriously and given very strong consideration in terms of whether or not they could be true or believable accounts. This in light of the fact that all of the other apostles and early Christians with which we are familiar from the biblical story and throughout history did face extreme persecution, in light of the fact that the early apostles did and claimed that they were willing to die for the faith, seems to only add further corroboration, further evidence that we should take these accounts of martyrdom from at least two of the apostles fairly seriously. So in summary, we have 4 apostles being martyred for the faith, which seem to have fairly strong evidence. Thomas and Matthew were probably, but not necessarily, martyred for the faith. James, the brother of Jesus, and Peter were most probably martyred for the faith. We can say that with a fair degree of confidence based on the evidence we have. And given the fact that even 2 apostles were killed for the faith and held on to their beliefs until the end, seems to me to be reliable evidence of very strong argument for the reality of a risen, resurrected Jesus, and seems to me to be a very strong support for the supposition that we should take their accounts seriously. And since this wasn't mentioned in the video, I thought it was worth bringing up. This one form of evidence for the resurrection of Jesus does seem to be powerful evidence. It presents a compelling testimony for the reality of a risen Jesus, and may not be proof, but should be taken as very strong support for the possibility of Jesus who was resurrected, who was seen by people, and the accounts from such people at least indicate that this should be taken as something we can't dismiss out of hand. So for this reason, I think this one reason alone does present a strong possibility for the reality of a resurrected Jesus, and it is something that we should all think about.